as part of the transition. But I'm going to play this video from Randy, who's this mass psychologist around trading. He was a psychologist first and then a trader second. And he talks about how valuable trading is. And I really see it this way. I really got my mindset and like how to even be a better human, mostly from trading being my catalyst. And so I love this video. I want you guys to watch this as we transition. So here we go.
Well, there's a wonderful thing about trading is that most of us spend a lifetime avoiding our psychological demons. In trading, they're going to stalk you. They're going to find you. And trading offers the incredible environment of getting in tune with yourself, developing yourself psychologically so that you're a better human being in a lot of domains, including trading. But you have to understand, trading is going to provide a platform that's going to give you a scalpel to look at your psyche, and you're going to have to reorganize it to be a really good trader.
So from this quote, you are in probably one of the most conducive environments to get into your mind to see what's going on, to deal with your greatest demons. And what does that mean? When I first started trading, it was probably the first time I really got a sense of how much emotional energy, how much of my psychology was based around money, and how it was really a reflection of all the other areas of my life, right? We have the 4 areas. You've got financial, you've got relationships, you've got spiritual, and you've got health. And I saw how the bleed effect happened in all 3. Like if I was suffering in one, I was suffering in all 3. And the more that I got into trading, the more mistakes I made, you could say, the more losers I had, the more that I allowed my psyche to get in the way of actually getting the results I wanted, the more I realized I needed some training. And it is such a conducive environment that I want to share this training with you that I put together years ago about the difference between something I call power or being powerful and being forceful. So I'm actually go through this whole thing with you guys and then provide some insights on this, and then we'll get into my favorite part where we'll kind of dissect how I do my technical analysis. So let's start from the beginning. So this is my power, being powerful, and being is such a powerful word, by the way. It's being powerful, being forceful. It's who you're being. It's this inner stance, this inner position that you have, that when you sit behind the computer, you and your psyche, your machinery, has everything to do with your results. And if you don't think so, I'd have you listen from a place of like you've never considered how much of your results have to do with your psyche. Like you've been hunting for tools. You've been hunting for the silver bullets, the answers, the strategies, the bots, the indicators, the right coach, the right articles, newsletters, subscriptions, charting software. You've just been hunting for the what. And really it was about the how. And what influences the how is you. It's your being. And you're either being powerful when you're trading or you're not. And the not is force. And we're going to talk about the difference so you can identify and hopefully see some patterns that you're showing up inside of your trading, whether being powerful or forceful. So let's first talk about force. Force comes from outside factors. It's really easy to see in the language of I have to, I should, or I need to. And an example is, have you ever felt like you were doing something out of pressure created by others? Like you're doing it from a societal norm standpoint, from the outside pressure looking in, the societal way looking in towards you, rather than doing actually what you want. Well, your actions are driven by force, by a whip, rather than a carrot, right? An incentive versus a ball and chain. Instead of having wings, you have an anchor. And force has some very unique identifiers, whether you're trading or it's in another area of your life, and I want to share some of those with you. The work or activity you're doing, not that it's actually the thing you're doing, but the way you're being inside of it is draining. Now, I want to say that again. Like, the work or activity you're doing, it feels heavy, but it's actually not about that. Like, how many of you are like, well, I just need to change my job because it feels so heavy, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I need to kill this relationship because it's so blah, blah, blah. I need to, change this, do that, blah, blah, blah. And it's all about how you feel. It's like you think the thing is actually causing the feeling. And I'm going to have you flip this around a little bit. Like, maybe it's not. Maybe the result is coming from how you feel. And it's the opposite order. It's not attractive. Like, force is not attractive. It does not have others gravitate towards you. If you feel like you're doing something and your group is small, you ask for help and people really don't want to say yes, you're often operating from a place of force. It's not the thing. You can have a great product, a great strategy. You can have a great incentive, political agenda, whatever. But if you're not operating from a place of power, it's not going to have people gravitate towards it. And often they will resist it. They'll even push against it. You'll become a target. You're left feeling incomplete or wanting. There's a sense that the thing is the solution, right? This indicator, this strategy, this new guru that I'm following. And it's like the image of force that creates the resistance of pushing back, like this gal who's pushing on a wall. If you push someone, the natural inclination in nature is to push back. And it's the way gravity works. It's when you throw something through the air, there's natural resistance and air resistance. It's just what happens. It's like a natural law around force. Now, power is much different. Power comes from within. And have you ever wanted something that it just didn't matter what you said or did? You just knew you were going to get it, no matter what. Well, this could have been an object. It could have been an idea. It's almost like something true was running the attraction towards the thing. Like you just knew you were going to get it. And what happened? You got it. Power, like force, is measurable. Also, these are not like woo-woo terms, guys. These things can all be measured, and you can see them in the results. It's not just also one or the other. There's a sliding scale of power and force. There's always more powerful and more force. And who you are that is true, that comes from who you really are, will give you access to more power in your life. So who you are that's true, that comes from who you are, will really give you access to more power in your life. It's like we forget who we really are. And it's such a cliche thing to say, and people go, oh, well, I've heard that. Yeah, but you don't get it. Like, true power comes from within. True power comes from who you really are, and it doesn't show up until you recognize it. It's always there. You just forgot about it. Power is a function, or how I would say it, it's the function to attract the things you want. It's the velocity to attain the things you want, to magnify and attract the very thing, your natural desire, free of the restraints that come from force. Now, why do we choose force? Well, using force is easy. It really is. We learn it as a child. When we choose force, we lack courage. When we choose force, we're often getting a payoff that keeps us from seeing the real cost. It's quicker, it's easier. When we use force, we are often creating and invest in some type of an illusion that control and manipulation works. And we love the ego, our small self, the one that isn't us, the small I is what I call it, really loves manipulation and control. Because we just, in a world of chaos, we crave consistency. And so we try to control our surroundings in a world that's always changing. And gosh, what a lesson that is to learn in the markets. So payoffs are a big part of why we choose force over power. It's why you do it. It's why I do it. I'm guilty still of using force, of like having lower levels of power is another way to say it. And common payoffs that come from force are the following. We get to be right. We get to look good. And we get to feel accepted. This is kind of this societal thing that happens. We also have some major costs. And I want you to pay attention to these because the costs, if you were present to the cost enough, you would not take the payoff. Let me say that again. If you were present enough to the cost of like taking these shortcuts and not getting what you wanted, if you were present to the costs, you will just keep doing it. And so knowing these costs, this is important to tune into because if you start to see them, especially with your trading, it's very likely your results will shift. And so common costs that come from using force are we stay stuck, meaning you run the insanity cycle over and over. We don't progress. Sounds similar. We don't change. And we keep doing the same things, expecting different results, right? The definition of insanity, as we say. So here's some excuses that are often an indicator that you're operating from a place of force. Here's one. Well, I don't have enough money. I'm blaming my training results because I don't have enough money. Or I can have only one or the other. Or there is not enough. Or I don't have enough time. Or I don't have the skills. And pain and suffering are often an indicator as well. So when we experience pain and or suffering, now there's a difference between suffering and like initial pain. And I would say that most of this, like suffering is really the indicator. Pain is like I cut my leg and there's pain and that's like an indicator that I need to do something to the leg to make it better. Suffering is where you keep reliving the pain unnecessarily over and over and over again. And so some of the indicators that help you with this is really the suffering part. And our body often is the messenger. The reason your body and mind gives you these signals is so that we'll look at it, right? If you cut your leg, it's like, hey, take care of that. What's causing this pain and suffering? And it's intended to make lasting change. Now, it's often not about the thing. It's about a belief around the thing. It's around something in our head. Like if your trading is causing you this emotional distress, if you're investing and it going poorly or the stress of it or whatever is causing all these emotions to come up, it's not about the trading. It's about your belief around what's going on. It's around what's going on up here. Because some of the greatest minds, well-trained, have taken the time to go in with the scalpel into their psyche. Win or lose, don't have these things come up. Win or lose. You look at some of the great ones, like the Warren Buffetts of the world, emotionless when it comes to trading. And that's not a bad thing. It's like almost the requirement. But it's because they're with the truth, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So what would things look like? I just want to give you this hypothetical. So what if you could live life with just more power? Who here doesn't want more power, right? Who here doesn't want added power to whatever level you already have? Maybe you're already living this extremely powerful life. Who doesn't want more? I do. Well, what if power actually created more of the things you naturally wanted? Like just the power side. And with more ease and less effort. It's like, wait a minute, Matt. You're telling me I could have more power and it would be easier and I wouldn't have to work as hard. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like this is why powerful people get what they want. This is why powerful people go from zero to hero so quickly. Or people that weren't powerful and shift into power. It's like this crazy thing happens. Well, look at the people you know and hear about that have it all. The people that went from zero to hero. Whether it's health, love, relationships, wealth. And like, what is it that's going on there? It might fascinate you. I would have you see that maybe that's fascinating. Like this thing that maybe creates some curiosity for you. And if it does, you might ask yourself, I wonder if it has something to do with power. I wonder if this power conversation had something to do with that zero to hero in such a short period of time. And I would say that's exactly what's happening. So the how to more power, I think is important. And it has to do with this word called truth. So power is always correlated to truth. And truth is simple and easy because it needs no defending. Access to your power comes in unveiling the truth. It comes by being with reality and leaving the fantasy or illusion. It's not something learned. It's something remembered. It's something that you've always known. And that's such a great realization to have, especially once you've had some truths revealed, to realize like, oh my gosh, this was something I created to block me from the truth. The truth was always there. And with truth comes power. Can't ignore Ray Dalio, philanthropist, hedge fund manager, billionaire. One of my personal favorites said this quote. He said, the best advice I can give you is to ask yourself, what do you want? Then ask, what is true? And then ask yourself, what should be done about it? I believe that if you do this, you will move much faster towards what you want to get out of life than if you don't. And it's like, oh my gosh, Ray Dalio is like pointing to this thing. He talks about the truth, like how do I get to what's true or truer? I like that word, what's truer. And then once you're with what's true, what needs to be done about it? And are you the being? Do you have the power to act on that once you know the truth? And so what does true mean? Well, there's a lot of discussion on this topic, and I'm going to narrowly focus it on financials. But truth is like the trueness of an arrow. And the truer an arrow is, the more likely it is to nail its target during flight. And the search for truth will get you more access to power. We just know this. This is what Ray Dalio was talking about. It gets you to your results much quicker than anything he knows of. And we're talking about one of the most successful hedge fund managers in the world. It will increase the rate and accuracy around hitting targets you seek if it's truer, right? If I have this arrow that's got this weird bow in it and I pull it back and take the shot, it doesn't matter how straight and unique I'm trying to aim it. It's not going to be easy to hit that target. But the truer it is, the more accurate it hits targets when you're aiming. And how many people would like to start hitting some of the targets they're aiming at, specifically in your trading results? Now remember, it's not a destination, rather a refinement and discovery. It's like a shot, I missed, okay, turn, shoot again. It's not about one time. It's not about taking one shot. It's really a process of finding truth, or what I say, what's truer. Now, is that true? There's a really fun game that you can play, and I do this for myself. This is an exercise I do that I've developed over the years to help me be with the markets, to help me be with my beliefs of what I think the market's going to do. And I ask this simple question. I ask, is that true? Is it true? So when I go, oh, well, I think the stock's going to go up and here's why, blah, 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 before I get really sold on that idea and I start developing a cognitive bias, especially if I own the stock or I'm in the trade, which can definitely get your head spinning, I ask myself, well, is that true? And then the game is really simple. When you hear yourself create or share meaning behind the story, well, like, yeah, of course it's true because blah, 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 you could ask, well, what would be a truer way of saying that? Or what would be a truer way of seeing it? Or what would be a cleaner story to identify this? This also has to do with your beliefs around your target. You have a way you would go for something you wanted, and you might start to see that there's more effective and proven ways in nature that provide you the results that you want. They're just natural. I find that looking at nature, also with this truer game, like even going outside and being with nature, really gets me into reality. And reality is where the market is, by the way. There's nothing you can do willfully to make the market move. You can't wish it to go up or down. It's just not going to happen. You can't pray for it to go up or down. It's just not going to happen. There are natural laws running. And to know the laws and to see them often in nature really shows up in the market. It's where Fibonacci came from. How many of you guys know about that? It was a natural occurrence in the world before we started using it in the markets, and it works in the markets also. So if you don't believe me, just go out and look, and then go into the markets, go into whatever it is you're trading, and see if you can't find parallels between nature and what you're trading to kind of align with reality easier. Now, arguing with truth is not a great idea. You can do it. I would not recommend it. Arguing with the truth or what is only results in pain, arguing with truth or arguing with what is, only results in pain and suffering. Back to that cost thing. It creates a cycle of force that is exhausting. So if you're feeling exhausted, it's very likely that you're operating from some place of force. And accepting what is and learning to love it will give you access to power and the results you have been longing for, rather than settling for this payoff, this like little win that really has a major cost. And the cost is your life. It's your time to have the one life you've always dreamed of and all the things in it. The one that is for the person you really are, not the one you've been pretending to be. So here's your curve. Here's like your goal. Here's like maybe where you want to take your trading account, maybe the goal, the graph around its results. And with power, it looks very different. Like the celebrities, like the people you know that went from zero to hero, when you start adding real power in your life, you do not have to live on a normal timeline. And the results you can get can and often become very exponential because you become obsessed with reality and you really stop dropping your stories about what isn't so. And so from this, I created a formula. It's really clever, actually. I use some of these ideas in my book, actually, that's coming out. And I want to share this with you. So it's T equals D plus H multiplied by P. And T represents time, the length of time it takes to obtain your goal, right? We're all interested in our goal, and we all want to have it now. We all want to have it in way less time. D is all the things you need to do to accomplish your goal, and you have to add that to H, the things you're going to have to do the goal. And then P is power. It's the multiplier of your doing and having. So if you have very little power, let's just call it like an ounce of fuel or a couple cubes of sugar, the amount of energy you can get out of it is relatively small. But if my power is massive and I have tons of it, the multiplier to my doing and having goes through the roof, and that's how we get this curve. So power versus force has this very clear example, and this is really your opportunity to choose. Like, can you choose power? Can you cultivate a hunger and desire for power, which really comes with being with reality? It really comes with wanting what's true and what's truer. And so I leave you with that thought to really take into your trading and apply to your trading and ask yourself, maybe even make some rituals in the morning. Like, how can I be more powerful when I show up in my trading? How can I be more in that zone and in that focus around reality? And you do that ritualistically, you watch how things start changing in your life. You watch how you start going through this scalpel process that we were talking about in a much faster fashion. It does not have to look like the timeline on the right. All right, so love that. That's our psychology corner. Let's go into my next segment where we are going to do our trade review. And in this portion of the training, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete everything. I'm going to delete all of my charts. In fact, let's get a new chart up. And I'm just going to change this to a daily. And I'm going to show you how to do this. So I'm going to show you how to build these charts, how to go through these, and do it in a way that's highly effective. So when I'm doing my technical levels, and this is on gold, I like to start with a clean chart in the beginning. And on the charts, I like to save my horizontal tools up here. So you can do that up here afterwards. But green means support. Red means resistance for me. Green would be below the existing price. Red would be above. So it's kind of like stop and go if all you can do is buy. And so we're going to start with our support levels. And what we're really looking for at first is kind of these low lows, these bottoms that the candles hit. And we're looking for some consistent price ranges where across in a horizontal fashion, you can see that the price stops and hits it pretty frequently. And you can really see actually one right here I'm going to find. And it's kind of at this 1900 level. And by the way, if you're ever wondering like, well, am I close to a level? Rounded numbers are typically technical support and resistance levels. They just happen to fall in rounded numbers. Why? Because we're lazy traders. We put our take profits and our stop losses, these limit orders, at those prices. We just do it. It's incredibly lazy. A lot of the bots do it as well, but it's just what's so. So you'll see a lot of support and resistance on and around those levels. So 1900, definitely a level of support. We've got one at 1932. You can see it here, right? Hits here and here, here. We got some levels further back. But we're just going to keep drawing these in. Looks like we've got one here for sure. You can see that here. So 1975. We've got another one from a more recent high. It's 2005. I'm going to bring it down to 2000. Again, remember the numbers? So it's like, oh, that makes sense. It's probably 2000, 1975. This 1932 is unique, but I'm going to keep it there. It might be a little lower, but I like that. We'll keep it there. And then let's put in our support, our resistance levels. Obviously, you start looking at some of the highs. Let's see if there's any others below this price. There might be one like right here. And that's it. So those are what I call our horizontal support and resistance levels. And if all I were doing were trading these based on the current price, I would take profits no further than above my nearest resistance level, and I wouldn't put my take profits, or if I was waiting for it to come down, I wouldn't put my limit orders to get in anywhere below the support. Why? Think of these as walls. Think of them as like you throw a ball, it bounces off. You throw a ball, it ricochets off. And it's going to do that within however tight the walls are. So why would you put your profit through the opposite side of the wall? How much harder is it for you to think of it this way, to throw your fist through a wall to grab money on the other side and pull through, rather than having the money just on this side of the wall sitting there? Of course, it's going to be easier to grab it on this side of the wall. And you literally have to think of it this way. This is just horizontal. So if I were taking a stop losses will always be outside of the levels. Take profits will always be inside. And you don't want to do like just a little bit. You want to give yourself some margin. And I also look for where I'm at in the trade with support and resistance. If I'm right in the middle, it's kind of like, it's 50-50. I'm not really strong one side or the other. But if I started, in this case, getting closer to the 2000 level, I'm going, wow, if I start seeing buy signals, it's like my risk to reward goes through the roof. I only have to risk a little bit because my stop loss can be just outside that wall, which is, just a couple feet away. And my take profit is like way out there. It's on the clear other side of the room, right? And so the risk to reward gets a lot better when you're closer to a support and resistance level, as long as your sentiment around your technicals, or it may be something fundamentally that you're seeing, goes in that direction. Now, let's talk about trend. I'm a big believer of trend. I'm a big believer of support and resistance and what's called non-linear support and resistance, where we have these channels, is what we call them, that form the same idea, support and resistance, but not horizontally. Same principles apply, but you can combine these theories together, meaning both are going to be working. And in this case, you've got horizontal levels that are going to be working against you like a ball, but now you've just inserted a new wall, in a way, inside of the room. And this wall is not linear. And so if you were to throw a ball into that new corner, this new, kind of triangle that's forming, as it gets further into the triangle, the ball starts going faster and faster. And I want you to think of that as like pressure, which creates a higher likelihood of a breakout, meaning the pressure just builds up. And so it's very likely it's going to break through one of those walls, right? The ceiling or the floor, as they call it. And that's what happens when we start to see the pressure mount. So we're in a downtrend on this. What does that mean? It means that I would really like this to be higher up and taking a trade short, because I like to trade the trend. That's one of the rules first. And when I take my stop loss, I want that to be way up here above the ceiling. And I want my profit to be above the floor. But every day, in this case on a daily chart, every day that goes by, this becomes more and more problematic because I get closer to my floor, which really is going to create some pressure to push up. And so I'm a lot more hesitant to take a buy trade on a breakout rather than a trend that comes back, bounces, and hits it. Okay, so that's kind of how I combine the two using technical analysis. This is how I do every one of my trades on gold and the S&P 500. It's actually pretty simple. The work comes in identifying the levels and understanding the strength of the levels. Some levels, like 2,000, that's an incredible support or resistance. One, because the price is a bunch of zeros, but it's also incredible because on top of the price, you've already got a support level that the price in the past has bounced off of. Where if you have something at like this 1932 level, and it happened a long, long time ago, you may not see the type of support and resistance at that level because people, they look far back, but like how far back did we go? We went back, a year for this support and resistance levels. Well, what if some of the support and resistance 2 years ago weren't at the same place? Well, a lot of people aren't looking that far back. And that's just the relative truth around support and resistance levels is like, this is what we're doing. Robots that are going in and trading this stuff, they're looking at those same levels. A lot of the hunters in the market are doing the same thing. Retail traders, speculators in the market, we all are looking at the numbers at the end of the screen. And when you use things like Fibonacci, you'll be surprised at how many of these levels fall within these lines. Like, we could kind of show you an example. Let's see here. And it's not ever perfect, but you can see even using Fibonacci how some of these levels really start lining up. And it's like incredible to see the patterns. It's like, oh, if I put it here, you can see the patterns. Like, look at this one. Nailed it, really close, top level. So it's like 4 out of the 5 levels on Fibonacci from this bottom to 2050. The retracement level, when it hit this, yes, it did spike over, but it came down, retraced all the way down to that 38.2% level, which is a natural occurrence in nature, guys. This is what the flowers do when they blossom. This is like the spirals you see in like certain things in nature in terms of like plants and how they grow. It's everywhere. They even say it's in your face. Like, you can run a Fibonacci spiral on your face and you can actually see where it connects the dots. It's a natural numerical occurrence, and it happens in the market also. And all we're doing, you could use just Fibonacci. I like drawing in my own levels. I find they're more effective. But these are natural occurring things in the market. And in my opinion, this just gets us closer to the truth. It gets us closer to reality. All right, guys, that wraps it up for our Market Pulse podcast this week. I will be back in town next Friday to hit you up with the latest in the news. But until then, stay safe, stay savvy, and enjoy your trading. I mean, it's probably the healthiest thing that you could be doing if you choose to have it from that perspective. All right, take care, guys.